I won't start a war. I will stop it. In the early morning of November 6, local time, the Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump said to his supporters when announcing his victory in the election on the same day as the U.S. presidential election. The Republicans also won at least 52 seats, more than half of the seats in the Senate election, gaining control. Moreover, the Republicans are also expected to control the House of Representatives. This has given Trump unprecedented confidence. The United States has given us an unprecedentedly powerful mandate. During the campaign, Trump repeatedly stated that if he won the U.S. presidential election, he would end the Russia-Ukraine conflict within a day, and could even extinguish the flames of war even before his official inauguration after Trump's strong comeback. How he will respond to the nearly 3-year-long war between Russia and Ukraine has attracted great tension from the outside world. U.S. future policies will be very different from those during the Biden administration. Raja N. Menon, an emeritus professor of political science at the City College of New York and a senior research fellow at the Saltzman Institute of War and Peace at Columbia University, told the paper the paper CNN in an interview, if Trump's remarks about Ukraine, the EU, and NATO can really be used as a reference, then everyone had better be prepared. Many European leaders congratulated Trump soon after he announced his victory. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban was the first European leader to congratulate Trump, calling it a much-needed victory for the world. On November 6, Orban announced that he had already talked with Trump and that they have big plans for the future. Orban met with Trump after the NATO summit in July and submitted a peace proposal for Russia and Ukraine to the European Council. According to the Financial Times of the UK, Orban suggested that the EU should re-establish direct diplomatic communication with Russia to seek a peaceful solution to the conflict, and said that Trump has a detailed plan to resolve the conflict. In addition, leaders of European countries such as France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and Italy also congratulated Trump on his victory and expressed their expectation to cooperate with Trump in the next few years. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that she hoped the United States and the European Union ULD jointly develop a strong transatlantic agenda to continuously serve the citizens on both sides of the Atlantic. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that Trump's leadership will once again be the key to keeping our alliance strong, and he looks forward to working with Trump again to promote peace through strength within NATO. However, the voices of congratulations can hardly conceal the anxiety in Europe. Trump's isolationism, protectionism, and the America First policy during his first presidential term, as well as the import tariff policies he repeatedly mentioned during this campaign, his demands on NATO countries to increase defense spending, and his stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict have all caused great concern in Europe, according to Reuters. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and French President Emmanuel Macron held talks on the 6th, emphasizing that the EU must be united and closely coordinated. Macron posted on social media that a more united, stronger, and more sovereign Europe should be established, while continuing to cooperate with the United States to defend our interests and values. The defense ministers of Germany and France also said after an ad hoc meeting in Paris on the evening of the 6th that the United States' attention will shift in the future. European countries should continue to work hard to rearm. And they emphasized that Ukraine will need Europe's unwavering support. On November 7th, dozens of European leaders will gather in Budapest to jointly discuss the future of U.S.-European relations and the direction of the Russia-Ukraine conflict after Trump returns to the White House. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky posted on social media on the 6th to congratulate Trump on his victory and mentioned the great meeting with Trump in New York in September this year. At that time, The two sides discussed in detail the Ukraine-US strategic partnership, Ukraine's victory plan, and ways to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Zelensky emphasized that for Ukraine and the whole of Europe, Trump's stance of peace through strength proposed during his first term is of great importance. This principle can bring Ukraine closer to a just peace, and he hopes that this principle will be reflected in Trump's policies during his new term. On November 7 local time, Zelensky said that he has had a conversation with Trump, and the two sides agreed to maintain close dialogue and develop cooperation. The Washington Post said that Ukraine's quick congratulation of Trump's victory can hardly conceal its concerns about the future. The Ukrainian side realizes that to obtain the needed American weapons, it must persuade Trump to support a war that he seems to think is too costly. According to a report by the Russian Sputnik news agency on November 7, Kremlin spokesman Peskov said on the 7th that the possibility of President Putin communicating with the U.S. President-elect Trump before his official inauguration is not excluded. He added that the Kremlin will react according to Trump's remarks. Putin has not yet commented since Trump won the U.S. election in response to Trump's victory. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that Russia has no illusions about the newly elected U.S. president, and the United States remains an unfriendly country to Russia. And this has not changed. The United States has the ability to change the trajectory of its foreign policy. But whether it will do so and how it will do it will be seen after January next year. We will wait and see, Peskov said. The Trump peace plan. Let Europe pay the bill. Trump has repeatedly claimed that he will quickly end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Since this year, some Western media and some members of Trump's team have disclosed some of the possible contents of Trump's peace plan. But Trump himself has never given his detailed plan. In April this year, the Washington Post quoted sources as saying that Trump believes that both Russia and Ukraine want to save face. They want a way out and has proposed to end the conflict by pressuring Ukraine to abandon Crimea and the eastern regions of Ukraine, according to another Reuters report in June. Kellogg and F. Leitz, Trump's former national security advisors who are considered to still have an important influence on foreign policy during his second term, revealed that although Trump did not fully agree to a plan to end the war proposed by them, he gave a positive response. The plan includes informing the Ukrainian side that it can obtain more American weapons only after starting the peace negotiation process, while warning the Russian side that any refusal to negotiate will lead to an increase in U.S. support for Ukraine. In addition, during the peace talks, both sides should implement a ceasefire based on the front line at that time. F. Leitz also said that, under their plan, Ukraine doesn't need to formally cede territory to Russia. However, it's also highly unlikely that Ukraine will be able to effectively regain control of all its territory in the short term. To achieve a lasting peace, additional security guarantees need to be provided for Ukraine, and arming Ukraine is likely to be a key factor among them. Politico, an American political news website, disclosed in July that Trump is considering an agreement to quickly end the conflict, including NATO's commitment to no further eastward expansion, especially not to Ukraine and Georgia, and negotiations with Russian President Putin on how much Ukrainian territory Russia can retain. However, national security experts familiar with Trump's thinking said that this doesn't mean giving up on any other possibilities, including providing a large number of weapons to Ukraine. Also in July, Mike Pompeo, the former U.S. Secretary of State who is considered the most steadfast supporter of Ukraine in Trump's circle and may enter the core foreign policy team of Trump's new administration, published an article titled Trump's Ukraine Peace Plan in the Wall Street Journal, refuting rumors that Trump might cut off aid to Ukraine and demand that Ukraine cede territory after winning the election, saying that there is no evidence that such capitulation would be part of Trump's policy. The article also said that it is President Biden's weakness that has landed Ukraine in its current situation, and Trump can rebuild peace through strength. The article proposed that a successful Ukraine peace plan might include imposing genuine sanctions on Russia, revitalizing NATO by increasing the proportion of defense spending of member countries to 3% of GDP, formulating a $500 billion loan plan for Ukraine, removing all restrictions on the types of weapons that Ukraine can obtain and use, etc. At the same time, Ukraine needs to join NATO as soon as possible so that all European countries can assume the responsibility of protecting Ukraine. NATO should set up a $100 billion fund for arming Ukraine, with the US share not exceeding 20%, and the same for other allies. The EU should quickly admit Ukraine and help it modernize and develop its economy, the article concluded by writing that if Russia complies with these terms, the West will gradually lift sanctions. Once Ukraine joins NATO and the EU, the sanctions will be completely lifted. In response to doubts, the article said, the last thing Trump wants to see during his second term is a failure in foreign policy, which would distract him from his domestic agenda. And 2 months later, J.D. Vance, the Republican vice presidential candidate in the United States, once again revealed some details of the plan to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict in a podcast. According to a report by Al Jazeera in September, Vance said, "It's possible that the existing demarcation line between Russia and Ukraine will become a demilitarized zone." But he did not discuss the location or scope of this demilitarized zone, only emphasizing that there will be strict security in this area. Vance also said that Ukraine retains its independent sovereignty, and Russia obtains a neutrality guarantee from Ukraine. That is, Ukraine will not join NATO or some of its allied institutions. And this is what the final agreement will look like regardless of who wins. Europe has already lost. Faced with the uncertainty of Trump's Ukraine peace plan, the Biden administration has been reported to have begun to accelerate assistance to Ukraine to help it be in the most favorable position. According to reports by Reuters and Politico cited by Huen Chiu-kam, U.S. government officials who requested anonymity revealed that the Biden administration is planning to quickly provide the last part of nearly $6 billion in security assistance funds to Ukraine before the inauguration of the new U.S. president in January next year. In Europe, countries have already made some preparations in advance for Trump's return, including the establishment of a NATO delegation in Germany to coordinate various long-term assistance to Ukraine, and increased investment in Ukraine's defense industry. However, in an opinion article on October 31st, Politico EU, the European edition of Politico, said that it doesn't matter whether Trump or Harris wins. Europe has already lost, the article read. Worry less about who will be the U.S. president and think more about how Europe can stand on its own on the dangerous global stage. The disturbing fact is that the U.S. interest in Europe has been declining over the past 30 years, and neither of the two candidates is likely to recreate the heyday of the transatlantic relationship in the early 1990s. The article also said that Biden is destined to be the last Cold War president of the United States. After him, the United States will have decision-makers who no longer regard Russia as a core threat to U.S. interests and have a greatly reduced understanding of the role the United States plays in the world. J.R. Galland, a Frenchman who once worked in Washington and authored Henry Kissinger, a biography, believes that the transformation of the United States began with former President Barack Obama, who promoted the pivot to Asia strategy, and this process is likely to accelerate now. However, some analyses suggest that although Trump's return to the White House may lead to further division within the EU, it may also stimulate internal adjustments in EU policies on defense, security, immigration, finance, etc., to deal with the existential risks brought by Trump and thus avoid falling into a long-term recession. The war-torn countries of Russia and Ukraine are also waiting for the next move from the United States after Trump's victory. Independent Russian media quoted an anonymous Russian Duma member as saying, "The current sentiment is, what if? What if Trump really makes an effort to resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict? The current president, Biden or Harris, will definitely not make any such gesture towards Russia." However, sources close to the Russian government are not optimistic about this. Trump is an impulsive person who wants to do things his own way. He may influence Ukraine in some way, but an agreement means concessions, including concessions from Russia. So far, Putin does not seem ready to make any concessions. Trump is a businessman guided by pragmatism. But we are not. That's the problem. Oleksandr Mirzhychko, a member of the Ukrainian Verkhovna Rada and chairman of the Foreign Policy Committee, said that Trump's remarks during the campaign were aimed at winning and should not be taken seriously. Now that Trump will become president again, Ukraine becomes a matter of his success or failure. He doesn't want people to say in the future that Ukraine was lost under his nose. Trump's arrival means that certain new opportunities are opening up for us. But Ukrainian officials also admit that they must find reasons to persuade Trump to support Ukraine. After Trump is elected, U.S. policies may become more transactional. In the view of Ukrainian officials, Trump's logic on geopolitics will be different. That is, shifting from a rules-based international order to a transaction-based international order. Ukrainian former Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said, "This is the end of an era and the beginning of a new era for Ukraine. And not only for us. This means that everything will be very different from the situation in the past 2.5 years." But he also emphasized that it would be a serious mistake to think that Ukraine will rush to the negotiating table now.